call the regular city council meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
One state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next up, public hearing for the proposed budget, fiscal year 2025. You got any comments for the 2025 budget? No one? Don't be in a hurry. Okay, we'll close the hearing then. We will move on to, it says 3 and 3 here, but that's not really 3. We'll move on to reports from council. Ed Waters?
Well, I'm liking this weather for a change. It's nice and cool. I missed the hurricane here, so I had to go to Georgia and get it for a whole week of rain of Francine. So other than that, that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Ed. Rick Fisher?
No, just we had a parks meeting earlier this afternoon at 1 o'clock. I know Mary's here. She'll give the full update on it. Just a couple of highlights. I guess I've been having some reports of people doing some illicit things, drug use, and a few other things in some of the parks. So I understand the police officers are now going and doing more license checks and making their presence, much more known at the parks. Thank you guys so much for doing that. We're also going to have, I guess that's 2 vendors, aren't we, coming tomorrow. So we've got 2 vendors coming out to give a little presentation on some of the equipment that's going to be available for parks that they work with. So we've got one at 10 and one at 11. So hopefully here in the not too distant future, we'll be getting to get some new equipment in some of these parks. And that's all I've got for now.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Jeff Terrell?
Nothing to report this week.
All right. And Alex is not with us, so Mayor Pro Tem Amanda Fenwick.
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor. Thanks.
All right. Nothing big about the fire? No exciting stuff you want to tell us?
I want to talk about 515.
I hear you. Okay. Make an announcement. Once again, don't forget anybody that wants to apply for any committees. Friday the 20th is the last day for that. We close at noon on Friday, so make sure you get your application in prior to that. We need 4 volunteers on EDC. I don't know how many applications we got, but there are 4 positions up on EDC I know of.
When will those come to council? October?
They will come to council in October, yes. We are still waiting on the boat ramp. We haven't heard any other updates except for the update is we're still waiting on the for them to review from the Texas Parks and Wildlife and Fisheries. So originally that was a 3-month period, so we're nearing the end of that 3 months, so I'm hoping we hear something pretty soon on that. I had the pleasure of being invited to go to driving school with the police department. I think they all were making fun of me, teasing me about taking Dramamine and getting sick and throwing up and all that good stuff, and it wasn't me that did that, just so you know. If you want to see the video, I'll show it to you privately, but David Donalds was laughing pretty loud. I kind of surprised him. We had a good time. It was fun. The guys that they work with up at HPD, they are very good at what they do. You would think these guys were stunt drivers in movies, the way they drove cars. I mean, one guy was going around the track backwards. We couldn't even go around it forward fast enough, and he was driving it backwards. So, but they were super, super nice, and they had a whole day laid out for these guys. They had some really good training. So that was very nice of you to invite me. You didn't have to do that. Although, thanks for bartering. It was free for me. So, other than that, I really don't have anything. I really don't have anything else on my plate right now. We're still working on some things. Mike will have a few things that he'll talk about, so I don't want to be redundant there. Moving on, we will go to staff reports. Chief David Donaldson.
No report.
Okay, that means we're all nice and safe. City Administrator Mike Cram.
Thank you, Mayor. We have gotten a report back from TxDOT on the condition of the bridge. We've discovered that they actually are mandated to inspect those bridges every 2 years. They found some material concerns, some significant defects, but the bridge is in good enough shape that they will not put it on their list for replacement. But we are working with Colliers. In fact, we're going to meet with him. Actually, I got an email from him today, or this week, sorry, too many things. We're going to be bringing something before Roads and Drainage and Council for consideration to hire another engineering firm that specializes in that type of stuff to do a really detailed, thorough inspection of the bridge, and then also determine what repairs we need to make to get it back to a load rating status. Once we get that all done, we'll have a schedule for maintenance after that, and we'll have TxDOT come back out. Once we have proof that all the repairs are done, we'll send that to TxDOT, and we will have the bridge re-inspected for load rating and go from there. One of the considerations that we're looking at as we work through the condition of the bridge and the maintenance and repair schedule is a consideration on whether the pedestrian bridge should be attached to, built to that bridge, depending on what we get from the assessment, or if it should be a standalone. So we're going to try to roll all of that stuff into one study and one set of meetings to figure out what we need there. Beyond that, I don't have a lot right now. We've got a lot of stuff still in the air, but nothing that I'm concrete enough to report on.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Moving on, Roads and Drainage. I think Thomas, oh, here he is.
I don't really have too much to add to what Mike just said. Once that bridge study is ready, we will go ahead with whatever needs to be done to the bridge to operate it and potentially increase the load on it, and then go ahead with the road from the bridge all the way up to Forest and concrete. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. Parks Committee? I know it still says Parks and Pool. We're trying to train Christie not to leave that part off.
I think it just says parks. Oh, my copy says parks. Well, anyway. Okay, yes, just to piggyback on what Rick said, we did meet today. We have our next meeting October 10th, or not 10th, October 8th at 1 p.m. We are going to get to meet with 2 vendors tomorrow. We're just trying to work on playgrounds and what it might take to bring some of them up with maintenance-wise, just as far as like fill, skirts around them, etc. Just the upkeep of them, as things don't obviously last forever. So we're just looking into getting some bids and what that would look like and some options to bring back to y'all. Again, we did want to also say thank you to the police department for their extra presence we've noticed lately, and the signs, which I know were put up at Depot. As a committee, we've noticed that is a great help, and we really appreciate it. So, and then I think that's about it that we covered today. So that's all we have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Waterfront compliance?
Letters were sent out to everyone who weren't in compliance after the last storm. They've all been completed, the repairs there. Animal Control is having a meeting coming up next month. It'll be the first one since I've been on the board, so hopefully I'll have an update there.
All right. Thank you, Ed. Planning and Zoning.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I don't feel like the Maytag repairman. We actually have something to report for planning and zoning. There will be a P&Z meeting on October the 7th at 6 p.m. That meeting is to consider a request for replat of Star Harbor Landing. Also, the ZBOA has got a request September 30th at 7 p.m., and that is a request by the city for consideration for parking lot setback for the east parking lot. So that'll be on, again, September 30th at 7, and P&Z October 7th at 6. Any questions?
All right, thank you, sir. Civic Club report. So Georgette couldn't make it. Didn't look like anybody else from there can make it, so she sent me a couple things to mention. Block party, Rubber Duck Derby, 9/21. This coming Saturday, I believe, 5 to 7, out on the Birch Road Bridge right there. It doesn't say it here, but I read the flyer the other day, kind of a potluck, so everybody seems to have a lot of fun over there. I think somebody was playing the guitar last time, so come out and support that. National Night Out is on the 2nd of October. We moved our meeting from Tuesday to Wednesday for that, correct? So that'll be on a Tuesday. No barbecue cook-off. Huh? I'm sorry. I said that backwards. Yeah, sorry about that. See, that's why you need to be here. So no barbecue cook-off this year. What she wrote here was there's a conflict with Wing Wars, that Wing Wars was scheduled on the same weekend. Wing Wars is not a Civic Club event, but a lot of the same cookers compete in both. So she was not notified that that was going to be moved to the barbecue cook-off date. So I guess that was done without the Civic Club's knowledge. So instead of having back-to-back cook-offs, back-to-back weekends, they couldn't come up with another weekend that fit. You start getting into December and there's a lot of Christmas parties and things like that, so they postponed it till next year. And that's all she had for me. So that'll conclude the Civic Club report. How about the economic development?
Mayor, Council, we had our regular meeting actually about an hour ago, so I know a lot of you were there. But we approved the funding for the east parking lot improvements, which you guys have on the agenda tonight. We also approved helping out with some of the funding for the Christmas tree lighting ceremony and some of the decorations and stuff up front, so we're pretty happy to do that. Also, like you mentioned, there are 4 seats opening up on economic development, and I think, like you said, it ends on Friday at noon. So that's for all the other committees. So if y'all know people that want to be on committees, it's always good to have a bunch of applicants. And I think, like you said, Amanda, we'll go over them October, and for the EDC, we'll make recommendations for that. Lastly, the Texas Music Office is having a second round of their music incubator program. It's basically the state of Texas allocated over $20 million for small venues and actually some large venues and businesses that contribute to music and music education and just live music in general. So during the first round, I reached out to most of the music venues around here, and a good number of them applied. So I'm going to do the same again, see if we can get some state funding for some of our music venues. That's all I have.
We'll go down to public comments. At this time, any person with city-related business may speak to the city council. If the topic of discussion is related to an item on the agenda, the comments may be made now or at the time the agenda item is discussed. If the topic of discussion is not related to an item on the agenda, the city council cannot deliberate or take any action at this time. Comments from the public should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per individual, and there will be no yielding of time. Would anyone like to address the council? Okay. Oh.
I just wanted to announce, which kind of falls under Civic Club because they are a sponsor for the blood drive. But the fall blood drive that we host twice a year with MD Anderson is going to be on October 4th from 2 to 7. And they had a little glitch in their sign-up link, so we're waiting on them to get that back to us so we have the correct link for the neighbors or anyone in the community to sign up. So hopefully that should be out by the end of the week on Marquee and social media and stuff like that. But I just thought I'd share that with everyone.
What's the time again?
It goes from 2 to 7.
2 to 7?
They're out there from 2 to 7.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right.
I was just going to say that's in honor of Carrie Kelly that we had lost here about a year ago with cancer.
All right. We'll close the public comments and we'll move on to a consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, got a motion by Amanda, got a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion passes. Moving down to item 10, new business, ordinance 2024-13, an ordinance of the City Council, Clear Lake Shores, Texas, amending Chapter 6 of the Clear Lake Shores Municipal Code by adding Section 6-2 regarding an exemption from a local alcoholic beverage permit fee for a business that also is permitted as a food establishment with the Public Health District or Health Department in Galveston County, Texas, providing for severability, providing for repealing savings clause, providing for an effective date, and providing for an open meeting act clause. So from what I understand, the legislature has done away with us charging for that because they're already registered with the county and with the health department, so we can no longer zap them for that fee.
That's
Is that
correct.
Okay. So do we have any motions on that ordinance?
Make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-13.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Rick, got a second by Ed. Is there any discussion about that? Hmm? That's what I said. Oh, I did say Ed? Okay. Well, y'all sound alike when I'm not looking at you. Okay. Correction. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimous. Moving on down to item B, review and approve a $10,765 invoice from AmeriWaste, Inc. for the debris removal related to Hurricane Beryl. So this was the total of... Sure, go ahead.
I actually forgot something from my report that I was going to tie into this, so
Okay,
pardon
go
me. So as the mayor was saying, that's the total for the 40-yard roll-off dumpsters that we had delivered and removed that were filled with green waste. Unfortunately, a few tires that we got charged a lot for. In the future, when we have these things, I need a lot of watchdogs that are really putting eyes on these things, because we get charged, and we had, what, a dozen tires in there or something like that?
We had 18 tires, and they charged us $450 to be exact.
Yeah. And so when any of that ancillary debris gets thrown in there, we get charged extra because they have a charge for dumping it in a different location that they extend to us with a premium. So we need to all have our A game on for watching people coming onto the island and throwing stuff that shouldn't be in those dumpsters, because those costs will not be recoverable through FEMA. And what I wanted to get to is we have met twice now, Cheryl and I, with our FEMA PDMG, who's our program manager. They have actually inputted or processed our initial claim to open our reporting venue in their grants portal. And so over the next week and a half, Cheryl and I will be starting to import all the pictures and everything we have for documentation to try to recover some of the costs that we occurred from the hurricane. As a side note, just informationally, when we had Hurricane Harvey, that was a 90% reimbursement from FEMA with 10% match from the local jurisdiction. This is a 75%, 25% ratio. However, that 25% we can actually offset because we had well, at least a portion of it, because we can charge all of the volunteer hours that we had. So we will be turning in all the volunteer time and the operational time, equipment operation, all kinds of machinery that they were using. That's all reportable so that we actually don't get that money back, but we don't have to pay anything for it. It's kind of an offset. It goes towards a bigger number so that we still get the 75% and we have credit for some more. So it helps us out in the long run if we can have good accountability for all those operational hours and efforts by all the volunteers that we had here.
Which leads me back to the reason we called them out that night. Those guys saved us a few thousands of dollars here. That was pretty awesome. That's also a reason we moved that dumpster. Unfortunately, we usually put those dumpsters down there at the boat ramp for garage, sale cleanup and all that. We probably won't be doing that anymore because people are coming on the island and throwing things in there that either don't live here or somebody on the island is taking advantage. So they will be up here, and we will close that parking lot from now on when we have those dumpsters, and they'll be by the cameras for that reason. Unfortunately, some ruin it for others, but in my opinion, that $10,000 was very little money cleaning up after that hurricane that it cost us. So
of that $10,765, Mike, what I hear you saying is the tires, the $3,265 that we got charged for those 18 tires is not part of that 75-25 with FEMA, right?
Correct.
Okay.
it is part of that total,
Correct.
but it's not something we can recover.
So basically, $3,500 is what we'll
It's not storm-related debris, so.
So do we have a motion to approve that amount?
I'll make a motion we review and approve the $10,765 invoice from AmeriWaste.
All right, got a motion by Jeff, got a second by Amanda. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to item C, review and approve recommendation of award of construction of East Municipal Parking Lot as submitted by the engineer Colliers Engineering and Design. Recommendation from Economic Development Corporation. Mike Cram.
So as Johnny mentioned earlier, we met with the EDC and they approved the plans and they approved the low bid that was selected. It is basically the same group that built the west parking lot. Name's not the same, but it's the same company basically. Bids ranged anywhere from what you see here to, actually, it's not on there. The bids ranged all the way up to a little over $800,000. We're happy with, it gave me a little more confidence in Colliers being selected as our engineering company because their estimation was only a few percentage points and only like 2 percentage points or something off of the actual low bid. So they were pretty spot on in their estimation of what the project was going to cost. It is going to be impactful to the businesses up there once we start. We are doing it in 2 phases, so we won't have the parking lot completely closed. But because we're phasing it, it's going to take longer because they have to mobilize everything. They have to get everything done halfway and then go do the other half. And so it's going to take a little longer than we initially anticipated. But if we did it all at once, it would be a larger magnitude impact on all those businesses up there throughout that construction phase. So we feel that this is the best way to ameliorate that a little bit. We're happy with the outcome of the bids, and we're asking tonight for council to consider approving that so we can move forward.
So we can make a motion on that, correct? But we need to also make a motion with the stipulation that it passes through the variance.
That is actually a clause in the general agreement that we actually factored in. Dick wrote us a little clause to put in there. So that's actually in the general agreement. So the bid winner already knows that if we don't get the variance approved, that it won't move forward.
It's not happening.
Right.
So I do have one plan I didn't reveal this in the EDC meeting because I figured I'd say it here, Johnny. So I do have a plan when we talk about how that's going to impact the businesses. And my plan is to go talk to skippers and see if there's anything we can do to either rent that parking lot for 90 days or at least maybe put those guys on the same page and get them to work as a team to help us through that time period. Because whatever one does over there with the major parking is going to help all businesses. I don't think they're going to say, no, get out of here. I think we'll be able to work that. That relationship has come a long way from what it once was. So I feel pretty confident we're going to be able to work something out with them and have some parking relief also, even when we're phasing it. At least that's my plan. Do we have a motion on that item?
Hey, one question, Mike. Do we have a time frame, estimated time frame, how long the project's going to take once it starts?
90 days once it begins.
Yeah.
Start to finish. Once we start.
And that's the 90 days doing the staggered construction, half and half? Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation of award for construction for the East Municipal Parking Lot as submitted by Colliers Engineering.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Rick, got a second by Amanda. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have some discussion. Originally, we spent around $350,000 gravel in that parking lot and adding drainage to it. It's done fairly well, and with Odie and Jorge occasionally showing it some attention a little more often, it's leveled out. They also mentioned that they could put lime in it to hold that gravel in place. And if we added some dust suppressant, people talk about dust, there's a dust suppressant that they could use, and that would stop some of that. Mike Pons on EDC even said that on Thursday through Sunday, the parking lot is generally full, regardless of the weather. So paving the parking lot's not going to add a whole lot to it. Make it prettier, but not going to add a whole lot of income to. It'll add a few parking spaces. It's. I think this money could be better spent buying income property, more sales tax, rather than spending on something I don't see we're going to recognize that big of a difference.
You good? All right. Thank you, Ed, for your comments. Any more discussion? Please go to the microphone. Please state your name and address. Even though you're my neighbor and I know you.
Zaremba, 318. So my question is, the city isn't paying for this parking lot, are they? That wouldn't be city dollars to pave a parking lot in Paradise, right?
It would be the EDC's dollars from their budget,
So,
which is funded through sales tax, yes.
because I can think of lots of places to spend that kind of money in the community. So we have streets falling apart, so I didn't know how the funding was happening.
So they're funded through an eighth of a percent of the 1/4% that funds EDC and roads and drainage. That does not come out of our general fund, no.
So the increase in the sales tax that I'm paying is paying for the parking lot.
No. What increase in sales tax are you paying? Because we haven't issued
Don't
one.
I pay a higher tax when I visit all these businesses?
It's
Not that I know
based
of.
on what you spend,
Yeah.
It's based on what everyone spends.
I don't think the businesses have a line item for parking lot paving on their receipt, so I don't know that.
Well, I have to agree with Ed that I think there's a lot better ways to use this money, fixing the lights and the poles and some of the infrastructure. So that's just my 2 cents worth, but the parking lot doesn't come up to the top of what I see as community needs. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Who wants to speak
Thomas Allen, 207 East Shore. A couple of comments. Ed, to your statement, we will actually gain, well, assuming we get ZIBOA approval, we will gain 30% more parking. 30. That's not insignificant. And you mentioned roads. We actually have, well, incredibly, we had about a dozen people that voted against this added sales tax to fund roads and drainage. That's actually something that is not really your tax dollars because we don't pay any city tax. It's only sales tax. Whatever you buy, whatever you spend within the city, that's where it goes. And without that, we wouldn't be able to maintain the roads. And there are a lot of road projects coming up within this and next year. So I wouldn't say they're falling apart, but yeah, some of them need some TLC. So it's the parking lot is, the lot itself is owned by the city, and the EDC is paying to have it refurbished to be proper. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Thomas. Anyone else? Okay. Any more discussion from council? Okay, all in favor? Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, we got 3 in favor and Ed's opposed. Okay, motion passes. We'll move on to the next item. Item D, ordinance 2024-14, an ordinance making appropriations for the support of the City of Clear Lake Shores, Texas for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025, appropriating money to various funds to the city, adopting the annual budget for the City of Clear Lake Shores, Texas, authorizing the city administrator to take certain administrative action regarding the budget. Cheryl, would you like to speak about your budget at all? You don't have to. I just figured it's your budget. We got microphones.
So this is the proposed budget to be adopted for the fiscal year 24-25. The highlights for this budget are salary increase from 3 to 30% at a total cost of $47,199. Retirement increase of 2.4%. The total cost of that is $22,875. Health insurance increase, it's 10%, and that's an estimate. We really don't know, and we won't know until we get closer to December what that rate will be, but it's predicted to be anywhere from 8 to 13%. So plugged in 10%. And that's a cost of $22,273. So mainly this budget is going to fund these personnel services at $92,348, which was the number one priority of council when we had our first workshop. That was the first priority of council was salaries, and then just the other incremental costs that were in there. And then the second priority was the transfer to the rainy day fund, which we're also doing for $50,000. So in the general fund, the total revenues of $2,865,288. We have total expenditures of $2,992,176. We have a shortfall of $126,888. That shortfall is to be funded with the surplus that we'll be carrying over from this fiscal year. Our estimated surplus for the end of this fiscal year is predicted to be about $160,000. So we're well funded with that shortfall. In the restricted funds account, we have total revenues of $43,550 and total expenditures of $5,000. We have a shortfall there of $6,450. When I say these shortfalls are simply coming out of their fund balance, simply coming out of the fund's cash account that's been building up over years. This restricted funds always houses these the funds that we talk about in child safety, for the playground equipment, and court technology, some restricted accounts that come through with tickets or fines and forfeitures. In our hotel tax fund, we have total revenues of $22,500, total expenditures of $30,000. We have a shortfall there of $7,500. This is the receipts we get on our hotel tax, our STRs, our quarterly payments on our STRs. The rainy day fund, we had total revenues of $155,000. That's all interest income. So we're in the plus there of $155,000. Basically, we banked another $150. We banked, in addition to, the $50,000 is the next fiscal year. But this year we banked $155,000 in the rainy day fund. So that was very good. Roads and drainage, total revenues of $385,000. The total expenditures are $1,144,044. The surplus there is $759,44. We've discussed the roads and drainage, and basically that $1 million is to fund those road projects that Thomas was talking about. The capital equipment with total revenues is $28,500. No expenditures are coming out of this fund because we're trying to build up this fund for capital equipment replacement. So we have an excess there of $28,500. Plaza 10 Corporation, we have total revenues of $51,000, total expenditures of $19,600, with an excess there of $31,400. EDC, total revenues of $320,000, total expenditures of $835,100. And we have shortfall there of $515,100. Are there any questions? That's a lot of numbers.
You guys have any questions for Cheryl?
Let me correct on the rainy day fund. I said that we banked $155,000. We're hoping to bank $155,000. That's proposed.
Any questions about the budget? Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll just say before we go any further, I know I say this every meeting, but thank you, Cheryl. With the way you highlighted everything, kind of gave a summary of everything we talked about. You know, in my opinion, we've had much more input with the budget process since you've come on full time with the city. So thank you for that. In the past years being on council, there was very little interaction. It was basically something that we were given, here, approve this, and we didn't have a whole lot of input. We were asked certain things, but it was never as much as what you bring to the table. So I want to say thanks, and you know, the PD was very active in it also, along with Mike. So it was really, really the last couple of years.
I'd like to take the full credit, but I can't, because it's a team effort. It's all of us that come together to put this thing together. So, no, I don't know about that. I couldn't do it without it.
We all say that, but at the end of the day, you tell me the same thing. But you are leading that process, so you have to take credit, and we appreciate all your hard work. So thank you for that. Do we have a motion on the budget item?
I'll move to approve ordinance 2024-14.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion by Amanda, got a second by Ed. Is there any more discussion on the budget? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. That'll lead us to the end. We'll close the meeting at 7:10 p.m.